Well, if you can have soccer chanting, nothing says hot like a 40-year-old high school student who sounds like a 60-year-old bartender.
Welcome to Mount Rushmore. My name is Jeff, and I'm the new kid in high school with a leather jacket and a troubled past. This is Richard, who can start a jukebox with the rap of his hand. This is Michael, who can play rock guitar while doing a 360 kickflip on a skateboard.
Insert guitar riff here.
This week, we're discussing the Mount Rushmore of fictional cool guys. We're talking about cool guys in literature, in film, and television, in anything. And this was Richard's suggestion.
Yeah, although we do know that the coolest people here are you,
That's
the
right.
listener.
The listener.
You're automatically cool just by being a listener.
Yeah, you guys
of our
rock.
podcast.
Yeah. Do you have cigarettes rolled up in the shirt sleeve of your T-shirt?
Well, I got a little confused. I actually rolled them up in my underwear.
Oh, God.
And they're clothes.
Oh, my God, there's one lit. Okay, Richard, why did you choose this?
Oh, I
He
think
sticks cools in his socks to keep them fresh and minty.
that's how cool I am.
So cool.
So, no, there are so many different flavors, if you will, of cool guys.
Yeah.
And this isn't just, when I thought of this, it's not just popular characters, because every show has like the popular type of character, but it's more specifically, there's like an element of coolness to them.
Yeah.
Something that other characters like relate to and kind of want to emulate or sort of realize that they can't. There's some sort of inherent thing about them.
Before we jump in, what does make somebody cool and not a dud? Is it...
You just know it when you see it.
you just know when you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the...
In the 70s, we went through the anti-hero. So this person was, think of somebody who was kind of wounded, kind of like James Dean, or vulnerable, like almost every Al Pacino character, or somebody who wins by losing, like in Justice for All. And oftentimes we find that person is cool by how they interact with the structure of society around them, or the institution that they're in.
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to just this weird sort of attitude that one gives off.
All right, Richard, pick the topic. That means Michael starts.
Okay, and I'm going to get super boring on the first one. That may mark against me. And we might have talked about him just recently, but Fonzie from Happy Days.
Oh,
Great
wow.
pick. I didn't put him on there specifically because
We recently
we
talked
just
about him.
talked about him.
Well, I thought about that, but we really only talked about like his jacket.
Yeah.
Because he was on the Mount Rushmore of jackets.
It would
but,
seem like an omission were we to not speak of the Fonz.
yeah, I think he exemplifies all the things that people think are cool, even though he's kind of like this, 30-something-year-old guy that
Jewish guy.
Yeah.
well,
Pretending to be like a
Italian.
greaser Italian.
yeah, and that hangs out.
I wasn't just saying he wasn't cool because he was Jewish.
that was
Come
the
on.
very first thing that you said.
But that's not what I meant.
Well,
That's not that.
we know what the record shows,
You didn't let me finish it.
and you can know what the record shows by just banging your fist right on the jukebox to play the next record, which is you hating on. There you go.
His full name.
Arthur
Fonzarelli.
Fonzarella or Fonzarelli?
Fonzarelli.
Fonzarelli.
Yeah.
So even in
Classic
his world,
Jewish name.
He's totally. That's funny. Interior malt shop. A man enters wearing a leather jacket and a yarmulke. He is
It's a leather yarmulke, so it's cool.
Arthur Fonzashevitz.
I think the thing is about him is he was the cool guy amongst all of the other, like, as a reflection of Richie Cunningham and the other, Ralph Malph and Potsy.
Yeah.
Like, those three dorks were just like school book nerds.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just like not with it with the girls, but then Fonzie was this guy that came in and he picked up all the girls and he had an office in a bathroom, which is kind of weird, but they treated it as cool. It didn't seem to matter what
You knew it
whatever
was
he did, it was
cool.
They thought it was cool in their weird kind of Milwaukee world.
With the wrap of a hand, start a jukebox or whatever, right?
Where a girl's clothes would fall off. I assume.
Magically fall off.
Wait, no, that was zapped.
Right. You're thinking Chachi.
Okay.
Not Fonzie.
Well, maybe the powers just transcended
like a
and just
family-
went. It's a trait. It's
Family
genetics.
trait, yeah. Well, it's interesting for me with the Fonz because that's one of the examples, I think, of a TV show where you have a cool character, and if the show is on long enough, you have to try and develop the character.
Yeah.
And part of what makes a lot of characters cool is their mystery.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. And
So the further you
That's
got
a
along,
pretty good point.
it's not great, but it's all right. So part of the, I think, cool factor of the Fonz kind of as the show went on, it's like they had to develop the character.
It's like Wolverine. It's like when he first came out, he was like this mysterious guy. You didn't know his real last name or anything about him. He went by the name of Logan.
Yeah.
And then, 30 years later, they're like, all right, let's give him a first and last name and give him a background story that's really stupid. And you're like, oh,
He used to work as a Dippin' Dot salesman or whatever the hell.
They keep falling through my claws.
It's the ice cream of the future, and I can't get it in my...
There was a very interesting thing that they would do with Fonzie, though, because he was always kind of he was a cool guy, but he was always like the moral center of everyone. Like, sure, he dated high school girls, but he treated them very nicely, and he always talked to like Mrs. C with respect, and was the mother that he never really had or whatever. But he was always this moral center, but then was also the bad boy because he'd ride his motorcycle into Al's.
Yeah.
So he was kind of had these two strange parts where like they had to make him cool, but then they also had to make him moral.
Yeah.
Which seemed kind of at odds, but then
a role model somewhat because or almost his maturation process was as he was older. Was he not?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
He wasn't much. I don't think he was supposed to be much older, though. Like, you look at him and seems like he was in his 30s at the time, but I think he was supposed to be kind of just out of high school. Okay. Or maybe in his 20s, so maybe him dating high school girls wasn't as creepy as it very obviously is. And I guess he kind of dropped out of high school and went into mechanicery or whatever it's called. And then, but also, hey guys, secretly on the back end, he was getting his degree at night.
Yeah, come on.
And so he was a cool guy that dropped out of high school, but he also, guess what? He also got his degree, so just go back and get it.
And then he becomes a teacher.
And then he becomes a teacher.
Well, he was also going through rabbinical school, I think.
Right, yeah. And I just want to point out, later on, he winds up, they make him kind of like political, because Henry Winkler was like more had like political things he was interested in.
Did they?
So he started like going with Richie on like freedom rides and stuff like that, like legitimately. And like they had an episode where he gets upset because they go to a segregated black diner.
Oh, wow.
It's Black Owls. I don't know. But it's just like that. The more you pile on background info about this character over time, it's like, oh, he's kind of... okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we come out swinging with Fonz. Richard, what's your first choice?
So my first choice is Winston the Wolf.
Oh.
From Pulp Fiction.
Oh, very good.
Cool.
So this is the character played by Harvey Keitel, who is called in after John Travolta accidentally shoots somebody in the face.
Yeah.
In the back of a car, and they have about, I can't remember, it's supposed to be like 2 hours to clean it up because they pull into Quentin Tarantino, his house.
They pull in. The timeline of this movie gets a little squinchy just in general, but his wife is supposedly coming home at like 8 a.m.
Yes.
And they have 2 hours to do this, which means that at 6 a.m, let's backtrack it. So 2 hours before that, 6 a.m.
Right.
So they're in L.A. and these stoners that they kill have a big kahuna burger at 4:30 in the morning, and it's bright out.
Well, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything incorrect about that. Stoners eating burgers at 4:30 in the morning. So
no, just that it seems like it's in the middle of the day, or maybe it's the morning, but it doesn't seem as late.
Well, it's supposed to be all jumbled up.
Okay.
I
guess we're getting off the point.
Which does bring up the point that it's like 8 a.m. when they call in Winston the Wolf.
Yeah.
As he's basically the fixer.
Yeah.
The person to come in and take care of problems for Marcellus Wallace. And 8 a.m, he is at a party.
In a full tux.
With a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And, it takes me half hour to get there. I'll be there in 12. And then like 11 minutes, 37 seconds, whenever he comes screeching up. Apparently in the script, it suggests that there is casino gambling going on. And in fact, you can hear in the background, someone says, place your bets. Further research suggests that they may be playing a game of Baccarat.
Okay.
It's
the ultimate cool person game.
It is a real cool person game to play.
Because nobody knows how to play it except for super rich people.
So that may be what's going on there. There may be like a illegal game of Baccarat being played early in the morning. Which makes sense, I guess. Yeah, no, it's definitely a cool thing that a cool person would do when you're ultra rich and you solve problems. So he comes in and he takes care of shit. And that is like about the coolest thing you can do. Comes in, there's no nonsense. Here's what we need to do. Vinny Vega starts talking like an asshole. He slaps him right down. Mm-hmm. It's like immediately he walks in the room. A room that includes Samuel L. Jackson. And he is far and away the coolest person in that room.
I think that's the key to it is, we talked earlier about like what makes someone cool. It's when other people think you're cool.
Yeah.
And the two like coolest people in the movie so far that you've met that are decked out in suits that command the scene from, the very first thing in the movie. Or maybe it's the second, I guess the second scene.
Right.
After the Honey Bunny and what's his name scene?
Tim Roth.
Tim Roth, yeah. And the other character name is that these people are like bowing down immediately and like, oh, this guy's going to do it. We're fine.
Oh, you're sending in the wolf? Shit, that's all you had to say. That one. And just immediately, by the end of the scene, he has basically taken the two cool, badass characters and has them in the shittiest, like, dork ass, like,
sure, the
t-shirts and
banana slugs.
Banana slug shirts and all that. And has just basically completely broken them down, but made them do what they needed to do to take care of this business.
Yeah, it makes them look like a couple of dorks just standing there in their shorts.
And I think the best part about it is the fact that it's not like this is not something that he hasn't seen before. This is not him coming in and, okay, we got to do this now. Panic, go, go, go. It's like, okay, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. We got 40 minutes before Bonnie comes. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. Don't worry about cleaning up the interior too much, but get the windows. That's the most important thing. This, that, and that. And it just...
He's like a guy that knows how to give CPR and then sends out people to go do the task that you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Like if you've taken CPR courses, you're like, okay, you point to someone, go call call the emergency line, you stay here and do this, you do this, and then people do it. If you just give out commands just to the ether, everyone's just kind of like, oh, well, I'll just won't do anything, and then maybe it'll get done. But he's...
Because I
bet he knows CPR too.
I bet he does. I bet he's had to use it before.
Yeah.
Because the cool thing about him, one of the cool things about him, I think, is the fact that in an emergency situation, we'd all like to think that we would be that guy.
Yeah.
The guy who's like, okay, we got this under control. You go do this. I'm taking charge. Mm-hmm. In reality, we would all be the people running around with, like a chicken with their heads cut off.
Yeah.
And he is not. Mm-hmm. And he just gets it done and then, ends as all cool people do by taking Julia Sweeney out for breakfast.
When you got Sweeney as your arm candy.
Ooh, you've got a maid, son.
Michael, you're second.
Well, when I was thinking of cool people, I thought, well, you got to have cool in your name.
No, you don't actually.
So, Mr. Freeze. No, I'm kidding. That was a dumb joke. I'm sorry.
I love it.
Frosty the Snow. No, wait.
Well,
that's two of them I got down. Mike the Cool Person from The Young Ones.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Where Christopher Ryan, it's a British TV comedy that was on. I don't know if we've talked about this much on the show.
Talked a little bit.
Two, three times. It was a 2-season long, 12-episode English comedy about these 4 awful college students. And one of them's a punk, one of them's a hippie, one of them's a, I don't know, art student. No, he's kind of like a poet. He's like hipster poet.
Well, he's kind of like a socialist.
Provocateur.
Yeah.
Self-indulging. He's just awful.
Right.
And then the last person that rounds out the group is Mike, who's only listed as Mike the Cool Person. Yeah. You never learn his last name.
Yeah.
But he kind of walks in and...
Is he even a student?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah. I mean, he's buying his way through college through like
blackmail
and bribery. But he's just the self-appointed cool person who probably isn't all that cool because of who he chooses to hang out with.
Yeah.
But the three of them kind of bow down to him as the default leader of the house and the default leader of the group. And he kind of has these weird dictatorial ways about him where kind of Vivian serves as his kind of right-hand man, his violent stooge. Mm-hmm. And I've always liked him just as the cool person.
Yeah.
But then he's probably not as cool as, he claims he's like kind of this ladies' man, which is a very cool thing to be.
Sure.
But, he has like a blow-up doll in his room. And he has all these fake things to kind of put on the persona of being cool, but not actually being that cool.
Do we feel like he is the representative of the conservative business people in Thatcher, England?
I would probably. I know that like Rick every once in a while will, even though he's like this left-wing anarchist, like he'll basically refer back to, well, they have some really good ideas about the government and what they're trying to do, but
Yeah.
But Mike's always been he was never my favorite, but I've always appreciated him as I've gotten older with like his terrible puns and his asides. And what I like about Mike too is he's just the smallest one of the group. He is he's very much the antithesis of what you would attribute to being like this big, strapping, handsome, overly good-looking guy that gets all the girls, and he's just very obviously not.
Yeah.
But then neither of the other guys, they're even more pathetic than him as well.
Yeah.
The con artist
He's
of the group, very much.
Yeah. It's like it's like he would be trying to be the wolf,
Right.
but failing.
Right.
But driving up in like Viv's Ford Anglia.
Exactly.
All right, Richard, your second choice is what?
My second choice is Chris Knight from Real Genius.
No, good one.
Which I like this one a lot because it sort of inverts the trope of the dorks at the smart kid school.
Yeah, he's cool. He's a cool guy and a nerd.
Yeah, which is rare to see. It might be one of the first.
Doesn't happen very often.
Might be one of the first times that we've ever seen like an incredibly smart character.
Yeah.
Especially a character in college.
If we think now there's sitcoms that are the most popular sitcoms, and geek culture has kind of taken over the realm of cool.
Right.
So that was unique back in the day because he was the chic geek.
Yeah, he was like the proto Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
Kind of that, geeky, incredibly smart, but also cool.
Yeah.
Also, interested in scoring and being good with the ladies.
Yeah.
And as evidenced by his reaction in the montages we've discussed before.
Just being like the lusting over and having like one of those wolfish, sort of like
Tex Avery sort of like eyes popping out of his head when he sees a girl go past.
So I think it was very tough in the 80s to have a character that could have dual traits. Like you had the Revenge of the Nerds, and they were always all nerds, no matter what kind of nerd you were. The jocks were the quote cool people, but they were all jocks and all of the same, cut of the same cloth, except for I guess that one guy who was like in overalls. But I like this pick because I think he brought something to it, to being not just the smartest guy in college, but he was also like the coolest guy. Yeah,
I mean, and if you did have a cool guy who had other traits, or a popular kid, let's say, that was pretty much treated as such a big deal. Like I'm trying to think like Lucas or something like that, where it's like, oh, he's actually sensitive, or oh, yeah, and without thinking of a particular show, like, oh, it turns out he's actually a really great. He loves writing or some crap like that, and that's like the whole premise. And this isn't the premise; it's just he's Val Kilmer, noted great American thespian, Val Kilmer. How do you think he prepped for this role? What kind of work do you think he did to get into
with
character?
Cher at the time, so maybe
Was
he
he?
shagged Cher. I don't know. Was he a Juilliard guy? I forget Kilmer. Okay, so one thing I think is interesting, like James Bond.
Yeah, and he was Juilliard guy, by the way.
Was you? Okay.
Yeah.
Juilliard. Oh, James Bond went to Juilliard.
James Bond went to Juilliard. James Bond relied on technology and gadgets. He had a nerd on his staff that made them for him, and he was always misusing them. Please do be careful, James. But that might have been a precedent for that character, somebody who embraced technology while stooping the foreign exotic women.
Right. No, I put this on the list. I know it's a movie that Michael and I both really appreciate it.
Sure.
And you get the feeling, I mean, Val Kilmer plays this in the movie, and he's Val Kilmer in 1986 or whatever it was. Coming off the role, I think, before this was Top Secret, where he's playing cool guy, Nick Rivers. And so it's a character, it's an actor who is very much associated with being cool. And you could see where that character in another context would have been played as like the ultra cool guy who doesn't really have time for the other nerds.
Well, I think what this pick and what the three other ones we've talked about so far is they've still used someone within the story to act as like your eyes to see how cool they are, whether it's the other guys from the Young Ones, or whether it is the gang from Happy Days, or whether it's Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield. Oh yeah, shout out to Jules Winfield.
Cool guy. Is that your dad?
The Mitch character comes in as the next resident egghead, and there's this guy who is smarter. He knows that he's smarter than him. He knows he's one of the smartest guys here. But then he's also sees him as this super cool guy and this goof off. And so your image of who Chris Knight is definitely told through the eyes of
this 14-year-old dork.
Yeah.
That and the fact that he has to get taken down a peg.
Yeah, one entire peg.
A square peg.
One
Yeah.
peg.
When he basically finds out that William Atherton has been playing him all along. So you do have within this character, because it's almost like he's set up to be too perfect. Mm-hmm. Like he's the smartest kid at Caltech.
And the coolest.
And he gets all the ladies.
And he's working on the coolest project, and he's almost graduated.
Right, and I'm sure he's going to get whatever job he wants or whatever, So there has to be some level of something that not just brings him down a peg, but also humanizes him a bit, where he actually gets to be angry and upset, and you see that he's got some sort of passion for it. So I just love this character.
Hey, quick aside, William Atherton in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the head of the EPA. If this movie was
what's the EPA? I don't know what that is.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Will that have been cut? Well, will they have cut that by the time this airs?
If they were to remake Ghostbusters, and I don't know why they would ever try to do that. It's amazing that the guy that would be the head of the EPA that's looking out for the environment is pegged as the bad guy. Yeah. Now he would be like, "Oh, come on in.
Yeah.
Please regulate us and make sure the environment isn't destroyed by these people that have nuclear power packs on their back."
Right.
So that brings us to our halftime on this subject of cool guys in fiction. You're the cool people in reality because you are the listeners to the Mount Rushmore podcast. We do appreciate you, and we do want to talk to you. Please say something cool on our Facebook. Say something cool on our Twitter. Take a picture of something cool and tag us on our Instagram. Show us how cool you are by downloading, rating, and reviewing the podcast episodes you'll find, and listen to them and share them with your friends. Please recommend us to somebody else, because we're hoping to reach out and take your cool and spread it around the world. Make the world cool. Who's next?
I am, and... Richard, earlier you mentioned a cool guy that has other traits. I got a cool guy that has another trait for you. He's a dog.
Is he a guy? A guy dog?
He is a guy dog, maybe.
A guy?
Not in reality.
Not a guide dog.
Not a guide dog. He's the original party dog. He is Spuds MacKenzie.
Oh man. Oh, snap. Oh, snap.
Spuds MacKenzie was a Bud Light Spokesdog in the mid-'80s. And he was a member of Delta Omicron Gamma, a.k.a. Dog.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's a cool guy.
That's pretty deep.
Pretty deep. I guess he gained popularity initially as just a dog on a poster in front of a giant goblet of Bud Light.
Oh, right on.
So since he's MacKenzie, by the way, M-A-C, can we establish that he's Scottish?
Scottish?
Sure. Well, Budweiser is a true...
Oh, that's
Scottish.
Yeah.
I saw in the last Super Bowl, I saw a commercial for Budweiser that showed that he was a German immigrant moving and meeting up with another German immigrant in our pro-immigration immigrant society. But no, Spuds is like this weird sports spokesman for Bud Light. For Spokesdog, the original party dog for a couple of years. And he was just like, I don't know, this dog in a shirt that hung out with hot women
and like skateboarded.
And I was reading about him, and
he's like the real Poochie.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
he obviously was turned into like Slurms MacKenzie on Futurama.
Right.
When they won tickets to like the Slurm homeworld of their Slurms cola, and they had like this slug thing, and he was the original party slug. But anyways, they would play Spuds MacKenzie as not a dog.
Yeah.
No one, and they never referred to him as a dog.
Mm-hmm.
They just referred to him like as if everyone was in on the joke, like he's just this guy. That's just, all the girls loved him just because he was the coolest guy. All the guys loved him because he was just the coolest guy, and he'd skateboard by, and he'd have his sunglasses, and he would do he was rich.
What do you think he made his money off of?
Well, it was the 80s. So it was probably some sort of investment.
Drug running.
Drug running.
Yeah.
Well, there was a shutdown of Spuds, MacKenzie. Strom Thurmond, noted senator and
Racist.
general asshole.
Yeah.
He got together with Mothers Against Drunk Driving and another.
He got together with those ladies?
And another like anti-children's programming campaign.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to say anti-children campaign. Because that'd be different.
That's just the current administration.
Right.
They got together to try to shut them down because they were claiming that by using a lovable dog, that it was advertising to children to try to get children to.
Wow.
And it didn't work. Like there was a lawsuit that went out that was thrown out, but eventually there was so much bad press that Budweiser just was like, let's just cut ties with this.
Yeah.
So they kind of ended the promotion in like 1989, and maybe it was time because you'd kind of been growing out of the lifestyles of the rich and famous sort of era of the mid to late 80s. Mm-hmm. And they brought back Spuds this year in the
As a
Super
ghost.
Bowl. As a freaking ghost.
So he's dead, right?
How depressing is that? That's weird and creepy. And like this, the best thing about Spuds as a ghost, still wearing like a Hawaiian shirt.
Right. Well, I imagine whatever you died in, and I'm assuming he died of liver failure.
I saw some great like pictures and memes online.
Wait, memes? Memes.
Who cares?
I do.
Okay.
Deeply.
What does meme stand for? Nailed it. Yeah. So that would show like the Star Wars ghosts. Like it would show like Yoda and Obi-Wan, and then someone like edited in Spuds floating behind them.
Real thank you, Internet.
The Internet never fails to amaze me on every level, whether they're awful people or really clever or...
The main thing I still remember about Spuds MacKenzie was his appearances in the Bloom County comic strip.
Oh, wow.
Specifically when he was a presidential frontrunner in 1988 and then smashed his car into Mother Teresa's car and wound up having a paternity suit involving Benji. And then Budweiser dropped him to replace him with a more wholesome character, and there was the Care Bears. And then eventually turned out that Spuds MacKenzie was a female, which was in real life.
Yeah.
And he also insinuated that some other character in Bloom County was actually a female and then passed out drunk.
God bless this dead dog.
Oh, so good.
Okay, what's your next, Richard?
That was such a good pick, Michael. Yeah, thanks. That's really good. My next pick is Wooderson from Dazed and Confused.
Oh, yeah. I love it. That's kind of the most recent image in my mind.
Really?
Yeah. Of that cool guy. It's probably because he's the new Fonzie. The guy who's a little bit older than the kids around him, right? Kind of hovering around. Is it?
Right.
Am I picking the wrong end? This Matthew McConaughey?
No, yeah. From Dazed and Confused, yeah.
And it almost seems like...
I keep getting older and they
stay the same age.
I just love
I keep going to the bathroom to use my office that I have set up here.
I love that we all thought that was Matthew McConaughey's breakout role as an actor. Then we realized that was his only role as an actor.
That was the only thing. His
I hope you like that because I'm going to be doing this for the next 30 years.
His complete range was Wooderson.
And that was...
Hey, this is the movie Contact, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be a hippie priest.
All right, Dallas. Who wants to buy some AIDS medicine? That's Ray Charles as Matthew McConaughey.
Do you remember all like these clowns that it came out and were like, oh, now it's the reconnaissance and he's back. He's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the exact same characters. He did one good stint on an HBO show and then that's about it.
The flat circle kind of went right.
Yeah.
Onto the thing.
And it's one of those things where you realize sort of, it's interesting you mentioned the Fonzie thing because the Fonz is like a cool big brother to the gang. This would be like if the Fonz was trying to hit on what was the sister?
Joni.
Oh,
Joni. Yeah, if he was trying to put the moves on Joni constantly, that's what the Fonz would be like.
I just want to tell listeners right now, I as a judge have a difficult job, and that is these guys just shower me. It's like a golden shower of great suggestions that I'm just being bathed under.
Thanks, Trump.
And I just had MacKenzie and McConaughey. So I'm thinking there's 1 point here split between the two of you for McConaughey. Wait, MacKenzie. MacKenzie. Okay, all right. So was the character cool or is McConaughey cool?
I don't think you can separate the character from McConaughey.
Yeah.
I think they're just one and the same.
Just split right down the middle.
I would say anybody who can be cool wearing a Zorro mustache because that's
Yeah.
kind of what he had in that. Right?
Yeah, he's got a good looking. He's got
Yeah.
the tight like kind of shirt and like the salmon pants.
Yeah.
Ooh, tell me more.
If you're rocking tight salmon pants and you can be cool, God bless you, sir.
I hadn't seen this movie up until this last year.
Really?
Yeah, and I even cut into it. Emily was watching it. I picked it up maybe 15, 20 minutes into it. I just, for whatever reason, it never hit me in college. Maybe it was just out. What year did it come out? 2000s?
93, 94, something like
no,
that.
that far back?
I was in college, yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
Shit. Yeah, I just, for whatever reason, it just never hit me. And then it was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, so this is another rite of passage film, and I think of
Right.
the many times the cool guy is the person who escorts us, like Chris Knight or like the Fonz. They kind of escort us through this institution, and in these cases, they're all academia, right? So that's
Right.
kind of an interesting element of that. And I know Spuds MacKenzie was a junior in college, I think, during that campaign.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he had
What
to
was
repeat
his
his senior year.
What was his major?
I think he's a red shirt.
I think his major
Fresh dog.
was partying.
Pardon.
This comes out of complete ignorance here. Does he get any sort of comeuppance at the end? Is he like
No.
is he like a cool guy that gets like, I can't remember because you know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of like the
Ben
Ben
Affleck.
Affleck character.
Yeah, you're
that
thinking
was
of that.
that was a total asshole through the
Jackass,
entire
yeah.
movie, and then gets his own.
No. All Wooderson does basically is hang out at the bar that they're at outside,
That's pretty cool.
and then goes inside and plays pool, and then comes back outside.
I do feel like
That's all he does.
there
And-
was a sense that he is, because he does have his own statement that they stay the same age. Wait, what does he say?
That's what I like about high school girls. I get older, they stay the same age.
Now, is that Ray Charles or is that
That's Stevie Wonder
that's Stevie Wonder?
reading the lines because he can sing.
So he does confess to his Arrested Development. He's stuck in time,
Right.
and
The MacKenzie character plus 15 years is a depressing person, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely. And one of the good parts is that when Wiley Wiggins, blanking on his character name right now, but the high school freshman, when he's sent in to go buy beer as a 14-year-old by the cool kids, when he starts talking to the old guy behind the counter, he basically becomes Wooderson.
yeah,
He
Oh,
starts
that's neat,
talking
yeah.
about working because like Wooderson works for like the city doing something.
Uh-huh.
And he basically just repeats everything Wooderson would say because that's like immediately he thinks, how am I going to get through this? Okay, act like a cool person. And apparently Matthew McConaughey partially got at least on an audition for the role because he was at a bar, like a Hyatt in Austin right before they were shooting or a little bit before they were shooting and wound up getting drunk with the casting director.
Oh,
Stayed up till like 2 a.m. Drinking with him. And so the casting director suggested he come in to audition for Wooderson. And initially Richard Linklater was like, well, I like you, but you're too clean cut. Like he had short hair, was like shaved and everything. He's like, no, man, I know this character. Let me come in and audition. And he came in and he was like was Wooderson, bloodshot, half open
Yeah.
eyes and kind of heavy lidded.
I
and
think
whole
that
9 yards.
audition's online. We could probably link it in the.
I
show
think there
notes.
is, yeah.
Okay, so McConaughey might be emerging as a more choice between you guys. Okay, Michael, what's your last choice?
My last one is the character within a character, Buddy Love from
Oh,
the Nutty
wow.
Professor, both played by Jerry Lewis, obviously, the 1963 version. So I guess the character is kind of the same whether you're talking about Jerry Lewis or Eddie Murphy. It is the person that the nerdy, geeky, dorky scientist who's so inept in every aspect of his social life in the world sees as the cool person. He's the person that he's like, I've got to turn into this lounge singer, this hipster, this ladies' man, this guy that can get the girl and can be the person that I've never been able to be and never been comfortable with by taking this ridiculous potion. And I think the theme all throughout today so far has been like, who is the person that the non-cool people or the less cool people see as cool? And Jerry Lewis, who has always been kind of a kind of cool guy, but he's also like the comedic guy of the Rat Pack. Is Buddy Love basically Sinatra? Is he is he Dean Martin? Is that just like his take on like, this is the guy that I've always wanted to be, that I've always seen as like, as the society sees as super cool, and what can I do to turn into that, you know, when I'm bummed out at the gym and I see all the ladies and the woman, you know, his love interest in the movie, you know, also kind of has that sort of thing. She kind of hates Buddy Love when she meets him, but she's also kind of attracted to him. So she doesn't quite know what it is, but she knows that she thinks he's cool. She knows that he's, you know, wants to get with him, and he's at times, you know, pulled back and forth. You know, it's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing of like, it's drugs basically. It's he feels good when he's in that character, but he knows that it's detrimental to his life.
Yeah. Well, that's you brought up something. It seems like it was first introduced in this most recent round. Although we did mention that Fonzie was cool because he had access to the females of the species. And that was part of what was always convincing us that he was cool, because he seemed to have mastered the art of wooing that Richie and Potsy and Ralph were just so awful at. And that with Buddy Love, it was essentially answering that question to all of those who would go through that voyeuristic wish fulfillment of, how could I get any woman I want? How could I be that person who's attractive to this girl of my dreams? And the fact that there's a magic potion or some kind of button or some kind of jacket you could put on or something like that. It was also the foundation for all of advertising.
Yeah.
Right.
You take you take this thing and you're cool. You drink this soda and you're cool. You have this cigarette and you're cool.
Yeah.
You wear these clothes and you're cool.
Well, it is so funny, and it is something that is kind of a story trope too. Ultimately, the hero has this magic potion, and then at the end they learn that the magic was inside them the whole time, and they learn to do it without the magic. So that's a very compelling, because it also puts a nerd and a cool guy on two sides of the same coin, which is kind of interesting. So, all right, Rich, what's your last choice?
Okay, so my last choice is Danny Zuko from Grease.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Ultimate, you know, again, another greaser,
Yeah.
cool guy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I didn't. Also, another reason I didn't go with Fonz. You can't really have two greaser cool guys.
There was a very, you know what, speaking of like the 50s, was that when like being cool was invented? Like, who was cool in the 30s and the 20s? Was it just like guys in...
Glenn Miller? I don't know.
It's strange
Benny
to think
Goodman?
that at some point...
F. Scott Fitzgerald was pretty fucking cool, right?
Yeah,
But,
right. Or like, I'm thinking like, there's a lot of like actors, like Rudolph Valentino.
What was Sirhan? I bet Sirhan was kind of cool.
In the 70s? Yeah.
But I guess my point is, like, there's something that seemed to have happened, maybe it was television or just rock and roll in general, where all of a sudden there was this, you know, anti-establishment character that came out that started being, that people just started, you know, and teenagers, I guess, and specifically were like, okay, that's who I want to be. And Danny Zuko and that sort of greaser lifestyle is definitely right in line with what was if you're a buttoned up, you know, short-haired school kid, that is really cool.
That's what you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I found him interesting, it's the duality of him being the ultimate cool guy at school and around his friends. But then what we see is obviously there is this dorkier side.
Yeah.
When he's with Sandy, you know, whether it's initially when they meet over the summer or these times when it's just the two of them.
Is one an act or both an act?
Well, they can be both parts of the same person. And I think I guess that's what the end is supposed to be, is that you don't have to be one or the other. You know, Sandy can be...
You can jump in your flying car.
And drive off in the sunset. Yeah. I think that's the point of life, really, if we get down to it. But yeah, I think that's kind of the part of it. You know, he spends all of this time in a lot of the movie is him trying to impress her by not being him.
Yeah.
You know, the scenes where he's trying to find a sport that he likes because he thinks that's what you like. And he winds up finding, you know, track, which he's actually decent at.
This is another Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing of this dual split personality
of cool and kind of
cool and uncool.
Yeah. And
Or cool and normal.
And normal. Man, not even like dorky, but just running track is not like the dorkiest thing you could possibly be doing. It's not like you decided to join like the AV club or something.
Yeah. Is it cool to change for a foreign exchange student, some Australian tart who comes in your door, when he could have Cha-Cha Di Gregoria or Stockard Channing?
Well, if you could have Stockard Channing
again. Man.
Nothing says hot like a 40-year-old high school student who sounds like a 60-year-old bartender.
Okay, so each of these gentlemen have registered their picks. At this point, it's my role to go in and try to evaluate who I think would be the winner. And let me just tell you, there's some themes emerging that I think are actually fascinating. I would say, like, within Richard's choices, I went through this gamut that kind of began and ended with Travolta. If you think of the Wolf as this guy, a lot of Richard's choices, I feel like, are escorts to another world. People who are saving and redeeming the people around them. People who are a guide sheep leading these other sheep away to a higher ground or to...
it's a shame there's a wolf at the end.
Yeah, weird. Maybe I shouldn't say that. So I just think it was a neat choice from, the Harvey Keitel character, the wolf in Pulp Fiction, who comes in and saves Travolta. And then real genius, we have this person who's a leader amongst this crew of nerdy students, and Danny Zuko, who's also kind of the leader of really kind of a dubious bunch of kind of morons. There's a lot of people in this crew who are kind of wannabe prototypes or wannabe copies of Danny, but they're all this kind of almost like Lenny and Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley.
Right. Some level of like bad carbon copy of it. Yeah.
There are a bunch of characters. And then Dazed and Confused had Wooderson, who's really kind of this older character who's kind of guiding them away or through this very awkward rite of passage that is high school. So I thought that was neat that a lot of your cool guys were these kind of father figures to the people who they were involved when surrounded with. And then there's it's just almost like a Travolta turnaround.
Right.
So it's almost like Travolta himself in that Pulp Fiction fractured narrative is walking through once again, and his timeline got screwed up. With Michael, I was thinking of the meek inheriting the world. There are a lot of these people who are cool in light of the people of diminished stature who are around them. In the young ones, Mike is de facto cool because he tells everybody he's cool.
Right.
If he hadn't repeated his mantra of being cool over and over again, would you even know it? And Bud Light, the Spokesdog, is this fascinating...
Spuds MacKenzie.
Spuds MacKenzie, the Bud Light Spokesdog, is really this kind of mank. He has no evidenced personality. We just know he's cool because there's bikini models telling us he's cool. He's almost like the most interesting man in the world, who was recently dumped by Dos Equis, was it?
Right, or they got a new one.
They got a new one where he doesn't really ever say anything, but everybody else convinces us he's cool. That is like the thing in Shakespeare. How do you know he's the king? Because everybody bows to him. He doesn't necessarily do anything very regal. And I love that Buddy Love is also kind of that person. He's using a potion to kind of become a cool guy when he's really a meek guy. There's something really compelling when we talk about Buddy Love, the fact that there's really two sides to the same coin, that this is a world where we only know cool because of nerdy. I didn't get to mention a person I thought was cool, but like when I was in high school, a guy hipped me to Cheap Trick, and there was this guy in Cheap Trick, Rick Nielsen, who was both a cool guy because he was a blazingly talented electric guitar player and played great lead, but he also a dork because he dressed like Hans Hall from the Bowery Boys.
Right, yeah. And would hop around the stage like an idiot and throw about 100 guitar picks into the crowd. Yeah. The first three, at least, Cheap Trick albums are very specifically done on the gatefold.
Yeah.
So it's like the hot guys on the front, so Robin Zander and Tom Peterson.
Yeah.
And then the dork-ass guys on the back, Bunny Carlos and Rick Nielsen. Yeah.
Looking like a moron. And so you know what I think, guys?
What's that?
This is going to be a two-parter.
What?
Yeah, this is going to be a two-parter.
A shocking cliffhanger?
Yeah. Let's double or nothing. Let's double or nothing and go have a list of cool people.
As a non-cool person, I would like to just cash in my winnings now and then play it really safe. Maybe put it in the bank and let it earn 5% interest.
You gotta let it roll, man. Let's double or nothing. This is a 2-round game. All right, so tune in next week.
We need a nerd.
So we're gonna
or a geek or maybe a dork.
So we're doing dorks next week.
Dorks next week.
Hey,
fictional dorks. We got our fictional cool people.
We can't do real dorks because there'd be 3 choices right here in this room.
Okay, so maybe in this these bookends of Mount Rushmore podcast, we're going to both entertain what it is to be cool and what it is to be a dork. So we'll see you in the next episode where we're going to leave you hanging on this cliff to find out who got more points in this cool guy episode, and then we'll figure out who got more points in the dork episode. And as always, this is Mount Rushmore, and I'm Jeff.
This is Richard.
I'm Michael.